Hey, basketball fans, welcome back to Tips and Streams, your go-to spot for the hottest NBA regular season predictions. I'm Kokan, and I'm here to break down today's matchups and give you the edge you need to make the best bets. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video. Your support means the world to us. Remember, our channel has no sponsors and relies solely on the love and support of viewers like you. Even a small donation by pressing the thanks button under the video helps us keep bringing you top-notch content every day. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and fellow basketball enthusiasts. And we love hearing from you, so drop a comment below and let us know what you want to see in our forecasts. Your feedback helps us improve and bring you the content you crave. Let's jump right into today's NBA predictions. We've got some exciting games lined up, so stay tuned and let's get that winning streak going. Today we have predictions for 6 NBA games. The first prediction for today is for a game between the Minnesota Timberwolves and Cleveland Cavaliers. Man, I'm really looking forward to tonight's clash between the Cavs and the Wolves. It's shaping up to be a wild one. Cleveland is playing host, and you know home court in this league means a ton, especially when you're 24-4 in your own backyard. The Cavs have been on a roll lately, and with 3 days of rest coming into the game, they're primed to put on a clinic. Donovan Mitchell has been lighting it up, and don't even get me started on how Evan Mobley has grown into a full-blown two-way force. Pair that with Jarrett Allen protecting the rim and Darius Garland draining those clutch threes, and Cleveland's got all the weapons they need to run the show. On the flip side, the Timberwolves have been turning heads with their recent play. They just put up a solid 114-98 win over Portland, and they're riding an 8-2 wave over their last 10 games. Every win has come with a nice, comfortable margin, and it's clear the Wolves are finding their groove. But here's the kicker, their game hinges a lot on Anthony Edwards, who's been dropping roughly 28 points when he's in the mix, especially against teams like Cleveland. With Edwards currently questionable for tonight, it leaves a big gap in their firepower. Jaden McDaniels has been stepping up big time, even hitting a career-high 30 points recently, but when you're missing your go-to scorer, the whole dynamic shifts. What's really going to decide this one is the battle inside. The Cavs have shown they can dominate the paint, and teams have really struggled to match up against the Mobley-Allen duo. Minnesota's been known to let opponents get to the rim a bit too easily, and that could be their undoing if Cleveland starts packing the paint. Plus, if you look at the betting lines, Cleveland's favored by 8, which might raise some eyebrows considering the Wolves' recent hot streak, but it all comes down to that potential Edwards absence. Without him, Minnesota's offense could lose a lot of its spark. I've got to say, the Cavs have that all-around package that makes them tough to beat at home. They've been tearing it up not just by outscoring opponents, but also by playing with a kind of efficiency that shows in their cover percentages. Sure, they've had a bit of a slowdown in covering the spread recently, but when you factor in their overall dominance and that strong interior presence, it seems like a no-brainer to me. And let's not forget, Donovan Mitchell had a monster game before against the Wolves, putting up 36 points and showing that he can dismantle Minnesota's defense. With him leading the charge and a supporting cast that's clicking on all cylinders, the Cavs are ready to seize control early and never let up. I'm banking on Cleveland not only to secure the win, but to do it in a convincing fashion. It's all about the rhythm and the matchups. If Mobley and Allen can lock down the paint, then Minnesota's perimeter shooting might not be enough to keep pace. I expect the Cavs to push the pace early, exploit any defensive lapses, and ultimately run away with the game by a comfortable margin. So, if you're thinking about taking a side on this one, my money's on the Cavs to cover that 8-point spread, especially if the Wolves are without Edwards. At the end of the day, it's going to be a highly competitive game with both squads showing flashes of brilliance. But when you break it down, the home court advantage, superior interior defense, and all-around consistency give Cleveland the edge tonight. Just make sure to double-check those injury reports before the tip-off, because in this league, one key absence can change the entire complexion of a game. For me, it's clear. The Cavs will handle business, dominate the paint, and roll over the Wolves in what should be an unforgettable night of hoops. The second.
Welcome to BetUS, Sportsbook and Casino, your ultimate hub for secure and thrilling sports betting and casino gaming. BetUS is one of the oldest and most reliable online sportsbooks in the U.S., serving millions of clients all over the globe each month. BetUS, trusted for over 30 years, offers huge welcome bonuses, countless betting options, and many deposit and payout methods. Depositing funds is a breeze and safe, with a minimum deposit of just $10. Payouts are fast and hassle-free, beginning at only $50. Choose from various payout options like MoneyGram, couriered check, cryptocurrency, or bank wire. Signing up is quick and easy. For signing up, you can use the link in the description and enjoy a generous 125% welcome bonus of up to $3,000. By signing up using the link in the description, you'll also support us as we earn a small commission from your registration at BetUS. Thank you for supporting us. Join now and start winning.
Prediction for today is for a game between the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat. All right, here's my take on what's about to go down in Miami. The Celtics are hitting the road once again, and while they've historically run roughshod over the Heat, with an 84-53 record head-to-head and a solid 7-3 run in their last 10 meetings, the NBA's never short on surprises. We all remember that blowout on December 2nd, 2024, when Boston rolled up 108-89, building a comfy lead early and then just letting the game slip away from Miami. That was a night where Brown knocked down 29 points, even if he didn't look too hot shooting 8. For 21, Tatum did his thing with a double-double, and even benchman Peyton Pritchard dropped 25 points off the bench. They weren't lighting up the scoreboard all night, just a 43.8% shooting and a 34.5% splash from downtown, but they made up for it with strong free throws, 84.6%, and owning the glass, out-rebounding the Heat 54-44. They even threw in a few steals and blocks to keep the pressure on, despite turning the ball over 14 times. Now, Boston's been on a tear on the road. Remember that decimation of the Knicks at MSG? But tonight, in Miami, they're facing a Heat squad that's been in flux ever since they traded Jimmy Butler to the Warriors. Without Butler running the offense, Miami's lineup is looking a bit different, and they're still trying to find their rhythm. In their last outing over in Brooklyn, they only managed to put up 86 points. Tyler Herro, who you'd expect to step up, only chipped in 15, and the team's overall shooting was a mess, just 35.6% from the field and a heartbreaking 22.9% from deep. They struggled to lock down defensive stops too, with just one block, which is a real red flag if you're going to face a team that's as relentless as Boston. From a betting standpoint, here's where it gets interesting. While the Celtics have been winning games handily, they've been a bit of a head-scratcher when it comes to covering the spread, only 21-31 against the spread. There's this odd little trend where every time they cover one game, the next they seem to underperform against the spread. And let's be real, when you factor in the Heat's recent struggles and their revamped roster, they could very well keep things close. I'm leaning towards the Heat covering a 7-point spread tonight. They might not pull off a win outright against a top-tier Celtic squad, but if they can find their shooting rhythm and tighten up on the defensive end, especially around the perimeter, they could keep it within that margin. Now, I gotta mention the injury situation. There's been some chatter that both Brown and Tatum might be a bit off their game recently. If either of those key pieces aren't 100%, that could give Miami an opening. And while Boston's usually loaded with talent and depth, a couple of off nights from the stars can really tip the scales. On the Heat side, they're looking to fresh faces like Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and Kyle Anderson to spark things up. If Coach Spoelstra can dial in a game plan that forces Boston to take contested, tough shots, then Miami might not be as far behind as the scorebook suggests. So, here's where I'm at. Boston's a beast on the road and generally one of the league's best, but sometimes even the best can have an off night, especially against a Heat team that's hungry to show they belong. With the trends showing Boston struggling to cover after a win and Miami's potential to snatch some extra points on the board, I'm calling it. Give me the Heat to cover that 7-point spread. It's going to be a battle of adjustments, a classic game of chess on the hardwood, and I can't wait to see if Miami can shock the system and keep us one closer than we expect. Before we move on, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing might seem like a small action, but it actually makes a big impact for us. Plus, it's completely free for you. Have you clicked that subscribe button? Awesome, thank you so much for your support. Now let's dive back into the video. The third prediction for today is for a game between the Golden State Warriors and Milwaukee Bucks. All right, here's my take on this matchup between the Golden State Warriors and the Milwaukee Bucks, a game that's loaded with intrigue and plenty of storylines. The Warriors have been clicking lately, fresh off a 132-111 win over the Bulls, with Jimmy Butler making his debut by dropping 25 and Steph Curry doing his thing with 34. You can see that the Bay Area squad has really found a new gear heading into the All-Star break. Add in some key contributions from Brandon Podziemski, 16 points off the bench, and Quinton Post hitting an 18-point game, and it's clear that this Warriors roster has got a spark that's hard to ignore. Draymond Green is back in the mix, and the overall vibe is that of a team ready to push for playoff positioning if they can just keep the game collapses at bay and lock down on defense and rebounding for all 48 minutes. They're golden. Now, let's talk about the Bucks. Milwaukee sits pretty at fifth in the East and managed a high-octane 135-127 win over the 76ers recently. But don't let that fool you. The Bucks have been a bit inconsistent, posting a 4-6 run over their last 10 games. Their home record is impressive at 17-8, but when they're coming off a back-to-back, things start to unravel. They've been around 2-6-1 in those situations. The big issue? Giannis is out with a nagging calf injury and isn't expected to suit up until after the All-Star break. Sure, Damian Lillard has been lighting it up, dropping 43 points on one night and reminding everyone why Dame time is a thing, and Kyle Kuzma is showing up with solid numbers, 13, 8, and 5 in his debut, but without Giannis running the engine. The Bucks are definitely not at full strength. The real chess match in this game will be about matchups and momentum. The Warriors need to keep their aggressive defense intact and avoid those embarrassing collapses that have haunted them before. If they can control the boards and shut down any easy transition opportunities, they'll put a lot of pressure on a Bucks team that's already dealing with fatigue and missing its best. On the flip side, Milwaukee will have to rely on their perimeter punch. Ironically, they're among the league's top when it comes to three-point efficiency. But they also need to make sure they don't give up too many offensive rebounds that could turn into easy buckets for Golden State. Personally, I'm leaning hard toward the Warriors here. Their momentum, chemistry, and that extra veteran grit from Butler just give them an edge over a Bucks squad that's been struggling without its star. Even though Milwaukee has home court advantages when fully healthy, the absence of Giannis and the toll of playing on back-to-backs puts them at a disadvantage. I expect the Warriors to not only cover the 5.5-point spread, but to push the margin even wider if they stay locked in on both ends of the court. In my book, this game is a classic case of a re-energized team exploiting the weaknesses of a squad that's running on empty. If Golden State can keep up their defensive intensity and make every possession count, they're well on their way to setting the tone for the rest of the season. For the Bucks, it's a tough road ahead until Giannis gets back on the floor and they can reestablish their identity. All in all, this one's got all the makings of a season-defining contest, and I'm excited to see if the Warriors can ride this momentum all the way through. The fourth prediction for today is for a game between the New Orleans Pelicans and Oklahoma City Thunder. Guys, if you ask me, tonight's clash in OKC is shaping up to be a total blowout in favor of the Thunder. The Pelicans are rolling into the Paycom Center already reeling from an 8-game skid and a dismal 4-22 mark on the road, and honestly, they've been in a funk all season. They're scrambling on defense, letting opponents hit shots at will, and that's exactly what the Thunder will be looking to exploit. The Pelicans have really been off their game lately. They're giving up way too many buckets, averaging nearly 128 points allowed over their last 8 outings, with opponents knocking down shots at about 51%. And when you look at their previous meetings with OKC, dropping games by scores of 119 and 108, it's clear that their defense just isn't cutting it. To have any hope tonight, they need to clamp down and keep the Thunder under 120 points, but that's a tall order when you're already bleeding points all over the floor. Now, let's talk about Zion. When Zion Williamson is on, man, he's like a wrecking ball inside the paint. Averaging 24.3 points in just 16 games, and even cranking it up to 28.4 over his last 5, he's been a bright spot for New Orleans, hitting over 60% from the field, mostly on those high percentage drives. But even dropping a 40-point masterpiece against the Kings wasn't enough to break their streak, a brutal reminder that one man's heroics just can't carry a team when the rest of the squad is missing that defensive spark. Meanwhile, the Thunder are on a serious roll. Riding a 5-game win streak, they've been firing on all cylinders. Offensively, they're dishing out 124.7 points per game, with efficient shooting 48.6% from the field and about 35.9% from deep. But what really stands out is their lockdown defense, holding opponents to just 104.8 points per contest, which, let's be honest, is the best in the league. OKC's home court is like a fortress, sporting a 23-3 record, and they've already put double-digit numbers on the Pelicans in both previous matchups this season. Sure, both teams are missing some pieces. New Orleans is without DeJounte Murray and Herbert Jones, and while that's a big hit, it's the Pelicans' overall lack of cohesion that's the real issue. On the Thunder side, Ousmane Dieng and Kaysen Wallace are out, but that's hardly a setback when you've got a deep roster ready to take charge. Even if a guy like Chat sits out some minutes or is shuffled around, OKC's talent is more than enough to keep the engine running smooth. The Pelicans' woes go even deeper than just a bad run. They traded Brandon Ingram for Jonte Murray, a move that now looks like it's left them scrambling for consistent scoring. They're forced to lean on CJ McCollum and Zion to light up the scoreboard, but without a solid supporting cast, it's like trying to win a game with just one main attraction. Their offensive rating has dipped to the 26th spot in the league, and defensively, they're flirting with disaster, ranking near the bottom. That's a hard matchup when you're going up against a Thunder squad that's efficient on both ends of the court. If I had to break it down, tonight is really about whether the Pelicans can somehow lock down on defense and force OKC into tough, contested shots. Slowing down a playmaker like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is no small feat. This guy can run the show and create magic off the dribble. New Orleans would also need to catch fire from beyond the arc to keep pace with the Thunder's fast breaks and floor spacing. But given their current stats and the overall disarray, I just don't see it happening. In my book, this game is pretty much a stamp on the Pelican season. The Thunder are the complete package right now, a team that scores at will, controls the pace, and locks down opponents with relentless pressure. They've been covering spreads like clockwork, and I'm not about to bat against a team that's been that consistent. With only 3 covers in their last 10 games and a string of losses that shows just how deep their issues run, New Orleans is up against a wall tonight. I'm calling it. Oklahoma City's going to roll over the Pelicans again, probably by a big margin. Something in the neighborhood of a minus 14.5 spread feels right. It's one of those matchups where the stats, the momentum, and the home court advantage all line up perfectly for the Thunder. The Pelicans just can't seem to get it together, and while there might be flashes of brilliance, they're not enough to stem the tide of a team that's firing on all fronts. At the end of the day, if you're a Hoops fan, you know that sometimes it's just one of those nights where the powerhouse demolishes a team that's lost its way. Tonight, OKC is going to dictate the tempo from tip-off to the final buzzer, and the Pelicans will be left trying to figure out what went wrong. It's a tough road for New Orleans, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunder put on another clinic, showing exactly why they're one of the league's most dominant squads right now. Just another night in the NBA where excellence meets chaos, and the results speak for themselves. The 5th prediction for today is for a game between the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks. Listen up, here's my take on the upcoming showdown between the Mavericks and the Kings this Monday night. I've been following both teams this season, and despite their ups and downs, the current vibe and stats make me feel that Dallas is in a strong position to take it at home. Sacramento made a bold move by trading De'Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine, a change that has redefined their lineup. Now, the Kings are looking to ignite their offense with the scoring prowess of LaVine, alongside DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis. When these 3 click, they can average around 61 points per game. While LaVine adds a fresh spark to the squad, the Kings still struggle with consistency, especially on the road. Meanwhile, the Mavericks have been heating up lately. With a 28-25 record, they've been knocking down shots and racking up wins against heavyweights like the Celtics and Rockets. When you see Dallas drop 127 points in one game and 116 in another, with shooting percentages around 51.5% overall and nearly 48% from deep, it's clear they're in the groove. The home crowd fuels that energy, and you can feel the momentum. When the Mavs are on fire like that, it's tough for any visiting team to keep pace. In a previous matchup, the Kings managed to stifle Dallas, holding them to just 100 points on a mere 42% shooting clip, which is no small feat against a potent offense. Sacramento also attempted significantly more shots, about 24 extra attempts, demonstrating that they're not afraid to go on the offensive. If the Kings can maintain that intensity and force Dallas into lower percentage shots, they might pull off an upset. However, that's where the scales tip. The Mavericks have been rock solid at home. They boast a 14-11 against the spread record on their floor, which is hard to ignore. Meanwhile, Sacramento has struggled on the road, posting only a 2-4 against the spread record in recent games, a statistic that doesn't inspire confidence when trying to cover the spread. Beyond the win-loss record, look at the stats that matter. The Mavericks are doing a stellar job on the glass, averaging around 52.8 rebounds per game, a sign they're hustling on every board. They also convert free throws at a rate of about 18.2 per game. In a tight contest, every possession counts. In contrast, the Kings have been letting opponents run free at the line and, to top it off, allow an NBA high average of 14.5 made threes per game. That kind of defensive lapse from beyond is a glaring red flag in today's game. And let's talk about the engine that drives the Mavs, Luka Doncic. This guy is a wizard on the court. His ability to control the tempo, dish out killer passes, and hit clutch shots makes him a nightmare matchup for any team. If Luka gets into his rhythm early, I don't see how the Kings can keep pace. His playmaking not only elevates his own game, but also creates opportunities for the whole squad. Now, don't get me wrong, Sacramento has talent. With LaVine now leading the charge alongside DeRozan and Sabonis, they have the firepower to light up the scoreboard on any given night. However, they've often struggled with the consistency needed to clinch wins on the road. Many of their victories have come down to razor-thin margins, and they've failed to cover the spread in most of their recent outings. When you're trying to secure a win away from home, you need more than just flashes of brilliance. You need a solid, dependable performance, and that's where the Mavericks shine. At the end of the day, my gut says the Mavericks have the edge. Their ability to hit from deep, dominate the boards, and convert those crucial free throws gives them a clear advantage over a Kings team that's still adapting to its new identity. Add in that home court energy, and you've got a recipe for a big night in Dallas. The Kings will need to lock down their perimeter defense and force the Mavs into taking lower percentage shots, or else they're in for a long, tough night. So here's my 2 cents. While it's bound to be a fast-paced, competitive battle where every possession counts, I'm leaning hard toward the Mavericks pulling off the win. They've shown resilience in the face of adversity all season, and with Luka orchestrating the offense, I'm expecting Dallas to turn up the heat and secure the victory on their home floor. Let's see if the Kings can rise to the challenge with their revamped lineup, but as it stands, I'm calling it. The Mavs take this one. The sixth prediction for today is for a game between the Portland Trail Blazers and Denver Nuggets. Guys, this matchup has me fired up. The Trail Blazers are rolling into Denver with a swagger that comes from locking down on defense week in and week out. Over the last 10 games, they've managed to snag 8 wins, and you can't overlook how they've been stifling opponents, giving up just about 102.8 points per game while forcing teams to shoot only around 44% overall and a measly 30% from deep. That kind of defensive grit is the backbone of their recent success, even if their offense isn't exactly lighting up the scoreboard every night. Now, don't get me wrong, the Blazers have had their off nights too. I mean, who can forget that brutal fourth quarter against Minnesota? They got absolutely burned, getting outscored 38-4 when it mattered most. It was a rough ride, a real reality check that even a team on a hot streak can have a bad stretch. But aside from that one hiccup, Portland's been one of the league's top cover teams. With an against the spread record hovering around 31-21-1, they've shown that even when their scoring isn't stellar, averaging just 108.8 points per game, they can keep it close and punch in enough stops to stay in the game. Remember that blowout win against the Nuggets earlier in the season? Portland dropped 126 points on them by pouring in buckets in both halves, scoring at least 60 in each and splashing 16 three-pointers along with nailing 20 out of 24 free throws. Big nights from Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe showed that on any given night, if their offense finds its rhythm, they can really turn the tables. And that's exactly what makes this game so intriguing. The Blazers have the tools, they just need to make sure they don't have another Q4 meltdown. On the flip side, the Denver Nuggets are coming in with serious momentum. They're riding a 6-game win streak, and when you see them on fire, you know they're not messing around. They've been averaging a scorching 124.5 points per game in their wins. They're slinging the rock at an impressive 53.4% from the field and knocking down shots from deep at about 37.3%. And here's a cool stat. Whenever the Nuggets hit 115 points, they've been nearly unstoppable, boasting a 30-7 record in those games. That's a testament to their offensive prowess and a reminder that when they get into their groove, it's tough to stop them. Denver's home court advantage in the Mile High City is legendary, too, posting a 34-9 record overall. Sure, their ATS numbers at home are a bit more modest, around 27-25, but when you see them blow teams out, like that 144-119 demolition of the Pelicans or the 22-point rout over the Magic, you know their firepower is on full display. So here's where my 2 cents come in. While Denver might be the heavy favorite to win straight up, I'm inclined to ride the points with Portland. They've shown time and again that even if they don't outscore you, they can keep it tight enough to cover the spread, especially if they manage to shut down Denver's rhythm in the clutch. The Nuggets sometimes get hot for the first 3 quarters and then cool off, and if Portland can exploit that, it could be a long night for Denver. Plus, if the Blazers can disrupt Jamal Murray's flow and keep Nikola Jokic from getting too comfortable, they might just force Denver into a defensive adjustment they're not used to. At the end of the day, I'm betting that while the Nuggets might come away with the win, the Trail Blazers will cover that 10-point spread. It's all about keeping the game close, and if Portland's defense holds strong and they avoid another disastrous fourth quarter, I expect them to keep it within striking distance. That's my take. Sometimes the smart money isn't on who wins, but on who covers.